amateur MMA channel here at UFC Fight Week in London with a seasoned professional in Joe Duffy. Joe, you're a guy I've been really wanting to catch up on a specific piece of news. IMMAF and now WMMAA have recently announced their pre-junior and cadet rules, and so you say you caught that news, and you're a guy I wanted to catch up with because, as I understand, you have a history of amateur fights with no headshots. So what were your thoughts on the news when you said you saw it?
Obviously, I haven't read through all the rules, so I won't pretend to know. But for me, I found it was a perfect start. Obviously, back in that time too, I found it was a perfect opportunity to strike, teach you to work the ground. Ground was kind of dominating, because if you didn't submit them or stop them with body shots, which was quite difficult, then you wouldn't get a win. And a win, it was in a league system, and the top 8 fought off for the belt at the end of the year. So for me, it was the perfect introduction. In a way, it was maybe even my favourite part of my career. I enjoyed it so much.
Look, that was in Wales, wasn't it?
It was in Wales, yeah. So there was 2 shows I used to compete on. There was the Grap and Strike Wales, which was run by my coach back in the day, and it was the ML Sports, or the Combat Sports Open Trials. So that one was, quite. That been running for a few years. I think that was like most of the guys came up through that. The likes of Alex Owen, Oliver Ellis. There was a lot of names that broke through into pro from there, and all the guys who started there done well, generally a pro.
Some of the controversial response to the rules for pre-juniors and cadets is that no headshots in a competition environment teaches bad habits. What are your thoughts on that as someone who's done it in a volume?
I think it was a pretty easy adjustment. Like, I can understand what they mean, but like for us who's competing in MMA, for example, I used to compete in so many different styles. Like one week I might go and do a grappling tournament, which could start on your knees. Next I might do a jiu-jitsu kumite, which was kind of like combat sambo. Next week I might do a points fighting. I might do continuous. Then I might go and do an amateur like this. So I think it just it's a perfect base without obviously the risk of concussions or any of that type of thing, because when you got plenty of time for that. When you step up, there's the risk of that all through your career then when you're doing headshots, and the problem is with the risk of the concussions and so on, it's not just the fights, it's the training. So for me, it was a pretty easy adjustment, a little bit of time, and I made the adjustment, but I'm all for it. I think people will find it very enjoyable too. Like it's a nice start, and maybe for people that it might be a step too far, going straight in headshots and so on. I think the body shots might lure them in, and all of a sudden they'll fall in love with the sport, and who knows, they could go on to do great things too.
So it should be like a perfect introduction for athletes from the age of 12, which is from where the rules start. Age groups separated from the age of 12 to 17. Obviously when you get towards the age of 17, obviously people are going to want to be involved in headshots, but from the age of 12, you think that's like a perfect start, really?
I think so, and I remember at the time I was also training headshots. Like I would, like we were competing body shots. When the fights would come up, we might train a bit more specific. But in between that, I was training headshots, and I didn't have any issues adapting to dropping it down to the body. It wasn't like because I was training headshots, I was punching people in the face. It was an easy switch for me, I found.
Do you have any thoughts on the limitation of submissions that can be implemented by, again, from the ages of like 12 to 13, 14 to 15, taking chokes out of the bouts for like underdeveloped athletes? Their bodies haven't fully developed yet, joints can be more frail, chokes could potentially cause problems. Do you have any thoughts on that?
So my thoughts on it, actually, I competed in the World Martial Arts Games in Vegas, and the head of our organization, Taijitsu Kai, he brought through a rule set for kids that you could do this. You know, you could do MMA, and his way of doing it was when the submission was on for a junior, what he would do, regardless, he would stop it, and then they started back on their feet. And the way they judged it was, instead of like an MMA fight where a submission finished the fight, because it was just body shots, and it wasn't full contact, the body shots couldn't finish the fight. So it give, you know, it give an unfair advantage to the grapplers if a submission finished the fight. So what they done is they allowed all, when it got to the submission, they stopped it, and then they judged it overall as a whole. And I thought that was great. I thought it gave you the opportunity to use your striking. There was less chance of injuries, and especially, you know, young mixed martial artists, the last thing we want is for their career to be ended before it even begins.
Joe, thanks a lot for your time.
Pleasure.